Hey everyone, it's Chris. Welcome back to another tutorial in our Tetris tutorial series. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add a preview for the upcoming Tetromino. Okay, and this is actually going to be a fairly quick and simple tutorial. The first thing, of course, you're going to want to do is load up your project and go ahead and once everything's loaded up, open up your game class. Double click on that to launch it in Mono Develop. Alright, so let's quickly revisit how we're actually spawning our next Tetromino, right? There's a method that we created that is in the game class, and we call that method, let's see here, spawn next Tetromino, okay? So basically what we're doing is we are instantiating from our resources folder the next Tetromino that we're getting from this get random Tetromino method here. And we're placing it in basically in the middle of the screen where the grid is, and then it's going to start dropping. Okay? So what we want to do though is we want to also know what is going to be our next Tetromino that's going to drop after we place this one. So really all we need to do is we need to spawn another Tetromino, put it off to the side, set it so that it doesn't move, okay? And then set it up so that once our current Tetromino places, the next or the preview Tetromino basically is set to be the current Tetromino, and then spawn another preview Tetromino in its place, okay? And then just keep going in a cycle and a cycle. But the first time we spawn a Tetromino, we only want to spawn the next Tetromino and the preview Tetromino. So we're going to also need to create some logic in there, right? So before we get started with any of that, we're going to have to create a couple of variables. And what we're going to do here is see how we're creating this variable here. What we're going to do is we're going to create that in the class instead of in the method. What we're going to do is go up here to the top, and right under the last variable that we've created, we're going to go ahead and create two game object variables, and they're going to be named preview Tetromino and next Tetromino. Okay, so those are going to be private. So game object, let's do preview Tetromino, and another one, game object, next Tetromino. Okay? And like I said, we're going to need some logic. We're going to know if the game's already been started or if the game's already playing, right? So let's go ahead and create a Boolean, and we'll call this one game started. And we'll set it to false. Because the first time this script initializes, which is the game class, and only gets called when the game first starts, the game hasn't started yet. And then what we'll want to do is, along with our preview Tetromino, it would be easier for us to have a location rather than, you know, constantly typing that location in. So we're just going to go ahead and create a variable to hold that position where we want our preview Tetromino to sit in our game. So just go ahead and create it. We'll make this a vector 2 because we'll just need to store the x and y coordinates, right? And that's what the vector 2's are for. So we'll do preview Tetromino position, and let's set that equal to new vector 2, and we're going to go ahead and set its x position to -6.5, and remember that's a float, so we have to specify that. And we're going to set the y position. Let's go with 15. Okay. And that's just my best guess. We're going to go with that, see where it gets us. If we have to fine-tune it later, we'll fine-tune it later. But for now, that's where we'll have it. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the variables. So what we need to do now is we need to add that logic that we talked about earlier to our spawn next Tetromino method. Okay, so we can go ahead and remove this right here. Okay. We don't need that anymore because we're actually declaring that variable in the class. And so in here, what we'll do is we'll say if not game started, meaning that if the game started Boolean equals false, which it will at the before anything else happens in the game, right? So then the first time the spawn next Tetramino method is called, the very first time it gets called, this if statement is going to say, hey, if not game started. So if game started equals false, then yeah, I want to do something inside of here, okay? Otherwise, if this is already true, then I want to do what's in here. So what do we want to do in here? Well, if the game hasn't started yet, we want to actually instantiate our next Tetramino, the one that's going to fall, right? And our preview Tetramino, the one that's going to fall next, right? So, but we also want to go ahead and set game started to true, so that this will not run again, because the next time that this spawn next Tetramino method is called, we don't want to instantiate a next Tetramino and a preview Tetramino, and you'll see why in a minute. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and take this line. Okay, I'm going to cut that, paste it into here. All right. So we've got that. We were instantiating our next Tetramino. Now we also have another one to instantiate, which is our preview Tetramino. And we're going to instantiate that exactly the same way. Oops. Remember, this is the class. Instantiate resources.load. And we're going to get a random Tetramino. Use type of game object. And for the position, we're going to use that position variable that we created in the class. So that would be preview Tetramino position. And then we're just going to pass along quaternion.identity. Okay. So that instantiates the preview Tetramino. But if we leave this as is, what will happen is our preview Tetramino will actually try to emulate our current Tetramino and fall just along with it. But we don't want that. We want that to just sit in one place and not actually do anything at all. So what we need to do is we need to enable the Tetramino game component script that we have on this preview Tetramino game object. So the way we do that is we just use get component, right? Get component. And we're going to get the Tetramino class, and we're just simply going to set its enabled property to false, so that script is not enabled at all. So that Tetramino is just going to sit there and do nothing. Okay. So now that we've got that, if the game hasn't started, a next Tetramino is going to be instantiated, and a preview Tetramino is going to be instantiated. The preview Tetramino is going to, its enabled state is going to be set to false, so it doesn't do anything. And then basically the game starts, right? So the next time that spawn next Tetramino gets called, right, we have a couple of things to think about, because we now have a preview Tetramino in our game scene that we can use as our next Tetramino, right? We want to take that preview Tetramino and we want to say, hey, this is the next Tetramino that we want to use. Okay, so we're going to make it fall. But we can't make it fall from where it's at, so we can change its position. Then we want to generate a new preview Tetramino so that we can see what comes next, and we can use it the next time around that spawn next Tetramino is called. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the position of our preview Tetramino. Okay, so we're going to use the transform property and the local position property of that transform, and we're going to set that equal to new vector 2, and we're going to set it to 5.0f and 20.0f, which is where a new next Tetramino would be instantiated if we were to instantiate a new next Tetramino, right? So we're setting the location of our preview Tetramino where the new Tetramino would be instantiated, okay? Then we're going to set next Tetramino equal to preview Tetramino, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to set next Tetramino we're going to have to enable the Tetromino class, okay? So that it actually starts doing what it's supposed to, okay? So that takes care of that. Now we just need to instantiate another preview Tetromino and set its Tetromino class to false. So we'll just go ahead and copy this, paste that here. All right, and that should do it. Okay, there's actually nothing else to it that we need to do to make this happen. This is all the code that we need in order to continuously generate a new preview Tetromino every single time that another Tetromino is placed. So let's go ahead and check that out and see how that works. All right, so press play here. Here we've got our, let me turn that volume down a little bit. Here we've got our square is going to come up next if we place this here. So we'll go down. Alright, now we got our square. As you can see, this is all working perfectly, just as we hoped it would. Now, it looks like these are pretty much centered like they should be, but maybe we can make them just a little higher, maybe by 1 unit. So let's go with 16 instead of 15, what we've had before. So we'll go up here. Set that to 16 for the preview Tetromino position. Alright, so that looks a little better. It's a little higher. Well, you can tell because this is the straight piece. It looks like it hasn't moved, but there. Alright. So this looks pretty good. And this is certainly not the end. You can actually continue on to customize this however you like. Very easily you could draw a box in Photoshop or create one with these blocks to put around here to dress it up a little bit. It's absolutely not going to interfere with anything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think for the next tutorial, I'm not really sure. You know what I think I'll do for the next tutorial is I've been wanting to create a grid background for this to kind of help gauge where the pieces are going to go. So what I'll do is I'll probably create one in Photoshop, and from there I'll show you guys how to add in that grid background and utilize that. Otherwise, like I said, this is pretty much it, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next tutorial, and I'll see you soon.